Higher biologists, join me to do this past paper question. So this one says the diagram shows a section through a human heart, name blood vessel X. Okay, so this is blood vessel X here. This is an artery that is leading away. We can see that because we've got our semi-lunar valves there. Okay, we've got our atrium there. Okay, and obviously that's on the right side, so that'll be the left atrium. That's the left ventricle. Okay, we've got our AV valves there. This here is going to be our pulmonary vein. So this here has to be our aorta, okay, which is leading away from that side of the heart. So blood vessel X is going to be the aorta. Describe the evidence shown in the diagram that suggests the heart is in atrial systole. Now, if we look at this diagram, how do we know if it's in systole or not? Well, we can't see the walls of the heart chambers. We can't see them contracting, but what we can see is whether the valves are opened or closed or whatever. So, for example, the AV valves are open here. Now, if we were in atrial systole, the valve would be open. If we were in diastole, the valve would be open, okay? But if we were in ventricular systole, this valve would be closed, okay? So we know that it's not ventricular systole, so it has to be atrial systole or diastole, okay? So all we have to write is the AV valves are open. Okay, that tells us that it's that's the evidence that says yes, it's in atrial systole. Okay, we don't know if it's in that or diastole for sure, but that gives us the evidence that we're looking for. Okay, because as I say, if it's in ventricular systole, they would be closed and the SL valves would then be open. Okay, describe how impulses from the sinoatrial node cause ventricular systole. Right. So initially, the SAN will send impulses that travel across the atria to the AVN, okay, the atrial ventricular node, which is located here between the atrium and the ventricle, okay, somewhere in this region here. Okay, the SAN is located up here, and the AVN would be around about here. And then what happens is the AVN will then send the impulses down through the centre of the heart and then back up through fibres in the walls of the ventricle. Okay, so they travel to the AVN and then they travel down the centre of the heart and into fibres in the ventricle walls. Okay, so something along those lines would get you the mark for that question there. All right, I hope that was useful. On to part C. The diagram shows ECG traces from an individual both before and after strenuous exercise, okay? We have to calculate the increase in heart rate during exercise, okay. So, first of all, we have to work out how long one heartbeat is here. Now, what we do is we go here, okay, and we can see this graph here starts just before that small downturn and then the sharp upturn. Okay, so we find where that is repeated. Where does that next happen? It happens right here. So this is how long one heartbeat is, okay? And we can see that same pattern repeating here as well. Now, what it's telling us in here is that each one of these boxes is worth 0.3. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes for one heartbeat, okay? So 4 times 1.3 is 1.2. And if you want to work out heart rate, you do 60 divided by the time it takes for one heartbeat. Okay, so that's 60 over 120, 1.2, which is equal to 100. Okay, actually, let me just double check that in my calculator just to make sure I've done that right. 60 divided by 1.2. No, sorry, it's not. It's 50, isn't it? Okay, that's why you should always use a calculator, not mental maths. And then if we look at this second example here, we can see this repeated pattern starts again here. Okay, and then here and then here and so on, okay? So it basically means that each heartbeat is taking approximately 2 boxes there, okay? And each box is worth 0.3, so if we get 2 boxes, that means it's going to be 60 over 0.6 for this second one after exercise, okay? Now 60 divided by 0.6 is 100, okay? And then what is the increase in heart rate? Well, it goes from 50 to 100, so the increase is 50, okay? Going from 50 to 100, and that's how we work that one out, okay? You need to know how to work out heart rate. And this is a common question that comes up in exams, asking you to work out heart rate, so important that you practice these questions and you know how to do them in future, okay? So on to the second part. Describe how, again, this is a common question in the exam, describe how the medulla lowers the heart rate following a period of exercise. So the question might be, how does it lower it? How does it work? How does it increase the heart rate? In this case, it's lower it, okay? So the first thing we're going to say is the medulla regulates the SAN, okay? And that helps to control the pacemaker cells, the autorhythmic cells within the SAN, and that helps to control the pace at which this happens, okay? So something along those lines would get you the first mark. And for the second mark, you would have to say it's the parasympathetic nerves, okay? Because we're talking about decreasing or lowering the heart rate. So it's the parasympathetic nerves. And what do they release to cause a decrease in heart rate? They release acetylcholine. Okay, so they're the 2 points you have to make to get the mark there. The medulla controls or regulates the SAN, or the autorhythmic or pacemaker cells, which in turn triggers the parasympathetic nerve to release acetylcholine, and that's what will lower the heart rate following a period of exercise. Okay, folks, I hope that's helped. I will see you in the next one.